Do you think personal branding and visibility are the same thing?
No, they are not the same thing. You don't curate visibility. Visibility is an after effect of your curation. There's a difference between how well you project yourself and how you project yourself. Personal brand is more in tandem with reputation. I grew up in Molete. There used to be this politician. He had a garrison of thugs. I played football with these thugs. When you see thugs give themselves names, the intentionality and the creativity that goes into naming themselves. They call one Lagos Color. They used to call one guy Abiamo. He was a goalkeeper. If they play short, you will catch him. He will catch the ball and cradle the ball like this, and they start calling him Abiamo. There's another one called Ewe. He never smoked. I want you to guess how they came about that. 300 level first semester. That was when I got introduced to rap. There was one Egbon. The Egbon saying the rap. I feel no sabi rap, but this thing you are doing is not rap. I said, Egbon, this thing no dope. Egbon got pissed, and he was like, I have no right to critique his rap if I can't come up with my own. That was the first time I would write lyrics. The rap that this guy said I cannot rap, I would do it. And then I put in for rap competitions in the school, dusted everybody, became the best rapper in UI. I'd always been a sponge, willing to soak up experiences. I can be all things to all men.
Hello. You keep coming back to watch our video, and that means the world to us. But here is the thing. 96.6% of you that come back here every week to watch us haven't yet hit the subscribe button, and that leaves us with just 3.4% of people. We pour our hearts into this. We try to create something special. We try to make sure every story, every moment is being created in a very, very important way that tells a story about ourselves the way we want you to be told. And please, by just hitting the subscribe button, you're doing us a huge favor. And on that note, I can make a promise to you that this show is only going to get better. The guests are only going to improve, and the overall quality is going to also improve by just doing one thing for me. As you come back to watch, just hit the subscribe button and share to a friend to also subscribe. It means the world to us as you do that. And hey, if there's something you need to tell us that we are not doing, just drop a comment or just drop a DM. We are always open, and please, we'll be looking forward to seeing you back every week. Thank you. Welcome to Talks About You. And on today's episode, I have someone that really spoke to me in 2024 when he was talking about personal branding, and it's one of the reasons why I started Talks About You 2 years ago. What he said was just one of those things that gave me a conviction that we need a podcast like this in this country, because we live in a society where if you don't brand, you will eventually be branded, and there's so much power in owning your own identity. And that's why we started Stories About Self, Talks About You. And let me welcome the no other person than Frank, the non-fungible. Good morning, sir.
What's up, my bro? How's it going?
I'm alright. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm chilled, blessed, happy to be here.
Thank you for honoring our invitation. Let me say that first. It means the world to me and my team.
Blessings.
Because we know how difficult these things can be to set up. Yeah. But I like us to what we like to do is start from the very beginning. And in as much as people we speak to offer us a lot of things, like in terms of perspective for the work they do, how important this is for our society to do what you do. But we like to know the individual first. So on that note, I would like to start. If I knew you let's say 5, what are the things I'm going to know?
If you knew me at age 5?
Yes. If I knew you at age 5, if I was one of your playgroup peers coming up, growing up from 5 to the thing, like the fundamentals, that's what we are just trying to establish. What are the fundamentals I'm going to know about your person?
A clown. You know, a clown, super playful, incredibly bold. You know, there was nothing he couldn't say. You know, I mean, you could quote that under the innocence of a child. You know, just saying whatever comes to mind. But apparently that has stuck with me for the entirety of my life. So again, maybe it's just who I am. You know, bold, unafraid to say what's really on his mind. Um, Gifted in the performing arts, so say acting, say um, standing in front of a large audience, presenting or performing or doing something, right? Um, Gifted at football, extremely gifted at football.
Do you still play?
No,
Oh,
no, I
interesting.
no longer. The last time I played football was during NYSC, and that was 2014, November thereabout. 2014. That was the last time. Then also loved to read. Loved to read. I guess that's about it. I was a, I don't want to say average kid, but there was there wasn't anything out of the ordinary. I think growing up, um, when I got into my formative years and then started hitting my teenage years and whatnot, then my inclinations became more specialized than general. I started to tend towards some things more than some other things. You get me? Yeah, but there wasn't anything really strange.
So, what year did you start to tend towards some things than the other? Because I understand from my research for this, you were born and raised in Ibadan.
Yes,
If
sir.
my research are not wrong,
Yes, sir.
you went to University of Ibadan too.
Yes, sir.
You're the first child of a family of five.
Yes, sir.
Because we try to
Yeah.
get to know our guests before they come in
Yes, sir.
and what you do. So, at what age did Ibadan,
Play
did
on.
society was it part of those things that formed your formative age?
Not really. Not really. No, nah, not really. There's this stereotype that people have about people who come from Ibadan. The moment you say, "I grew up in Ibadan," they start to look at you like you're crude, like you're not exposed, stuff like that. And it was some of the things that we had to deal with, coming to Lagos, and then they'll hear you speak and they'll be like, "Are you sure you grew up in Ibadan?" You understand? But the thing is, I was born into a family of academicians. Basically, my dad was a teacher, my mom was a teacher, right? So right from cradle, the importance of having a robust vocabulary had been drummed into our mental. So as opposed to when other kids had toys, I never had toys. My toys were books.
Interesting.
I bro,
From what age was that?
as far as I can remember,
Wow.
I'm telling you, as far as and it wasn't even something that was enforced. I mean, there's the part where your parents tell you to read as regards, like for exams and whatnot. But outside of that, I was very inquisitive. I was so curious about what was written in pages. So I read a lot. My dad had a lot of novels from James Hadley Chase to Sidney Sheldon to, a whole lot of, authors like that. I would read over and over. Then he had, so we had this room in our house. Um, it was a store. My dad had decades worth of newspapers in the store. Decades worth. I'm telling you. In fact, there was one holiday. It was I think it was second term. Third term holiday is that one that is usually very long.
Yeah.
Second term, I think that was like 2 weeks holidays or something.
3 weeks.
2-3 weeks thereabout. I spent the entirety of that holiday in the store.
Going through newspapers.
So going through. So within that period, I consumed a decade's worth of newspapers. So from like 1978 till like 1988 thereabouts. All the newspapers, magazines that came out at that point in time, all of that, I consumed it. So um my I would say my immediate environment didn't um have as much effect as the books and the newspapers and magazines and journals that I was reading. So those ones had more of an effect on me. My mind had traveled outside of my locale right from when I was like pretty young, so I could say things that were not within my purview, within my immediate environment, and my peers would look at me like, how are you
Able to do that.
how do you understand these things, so I would say that the conditioning, though salient, was like very powerful as regards the things that I had to study, things that I had to read. It had exposed my mind from a very young age. Although I was a I'd always been a sponge, I used to soak up a lot of experiences. I grew up in an area called Molete.
I know Molite.
Molete.
Yeah, I stayed in Ibadan for 2 years too.
Nice. There used to be this politician called Alhaji Adedibu.
Yeah.
Right? So he had a garrison of thugs. Do you understand? So I played football with these thugs, and like I said, I used to be very good at football, so they loved me. You understand? So I learned their mannerisms, even though there was no room for expression of that, because I couldn't go home and start sounding like a thug. My father would beat the living daylight out of me. You understand? So, but I learned their mannerisms, how they went about giving themselves the most interesting names. When you see thugs give themselves names, the intentionality and the creativity that goes into naming themselves, bro, it needs to be studied in an Ivy League university. I'm telling you, man, it's so creative the way they go about naming themselves.
Yeah, I think I can relate to that because I grew up in the Ijegnu too. Because when you hear their name, it tells you what they do in the group.
What they do.
It's a brand identity.
Do you understand? I'm telling you, man. Like, there's one called, they call one Lagos Color. What does Lagos Color mean?
Lagos is vibrant, rough, everything at the
Good.
end.
That's what you would think. What's the color of buses in Lagos?
Blue and black.
No.
Yellow, black. Yellow and black.
It's primarily yellow,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
This guy is fair in complexion. And they call him Lagos Color. And then you start wondering, that's interesting. They used to call one guy Abiamo. I want you to guess how they came about that name.
He has a lot of children.
Good. You are wrong. He was a goalkeeper. Very good. So if they play short, he will catch him. They play short, he will catch him. So he will catch the ball and cradle the ball like this. And they start calling him Abiamo. Do you now understand?
Yeah,
There's another one.
That makes a lot of sense.
There's another one called Ewe. Now, I want you to guess how they came about that.
That was typically be maybe the one that rolls or most things for them.
Good. Incidentally, he never, the entire time when we were together growing up and all of that, he never smoked. But his older brothers used to smoke. So they would send him to go and buy weed. So, as young as he was, so when he's going, they would tell him, come from Elewe, man.
Right.
Exactly. So he would just go there and Fumilewe, they'll give him. So anytime he goes there, the people who are selling stuff will just say, Ewe Tideo, Ewe. That was how it happened. Do you understand now? So the creativity that goes into, giving themselves names, the way that they creatively insulted themselves and their mothers and their fathers, do you understand? It intrigued me. So I had taken that and kept it somewhere. That's why when I started doing this content, if an Agbero had a diary, I used to talk about standpoint, life from the standpoint of a thug. That was me channeling what I had, and the content went viral. Like, it was everywhere. Look, that content got me into rooms I couldn't even dream of at that point in time, with people I wouldn't have imagined were watching that kind of content. You can imagine interfacing with somebody at the villa who says, I digest your content, I send your content to my family group, and you can imagine the content about a thug. Do you understand? But I was never that, but I grew up around them. I had kept that somewhere, And then when I saw room for expression for that happened.
Generalist.
At the same time, I have interfaced with like the brightest of minds. I've also interfaced with people who clearly had no future ambition and they were proud of it. You understand? They were proud of it. I was with them. You understand? So if there is the need to maybe creatively showcase that, it's there. You understand? So I'd always been a sponge, willing to soak up experiences. You understand? So bro, it's like Apostle Paul said, I can be all things to all men.
That's powerful. I think you could really be all things to all men because experiences are very powerful. I keep saying this to people. I have this proud analogy I use. I feel like it's not about age. I like using David as my example when I talk about it. David is about 31 years old. He has better experiences than some men that have lived to their 60, just because of the way the trajectory of his life have went. And that helps us to guide. It helps to guide our reality in a kind of way. Because when we have been in different difficult situations, it just it helps you make better informed decisions.
Absolutely.
So you reading and having experienced all these things and soaking it in, how was it able to help you get drawn towards the path you chose? Because you mentioned it earlier, like you just at a point you just started getting drawn to certain things. And what are the things you started getting drawn to?
Okay.
And how did that happen? How did you pick interest in those things?
Okay, good. Like I said, I'd always been gifted in the performing arts. So when I was year high, in church, maybe age 5, 6, I was already reading newsletters in front of large congregation in church. There was that. In school, phenomenal actor. Do you understand? Phenomenal actor. Inter-school debates, na me. You understand? Always.
You have the voice and the character.
You understand? Me. So anything that had to do with standing in front of an audience, I was always there. Now, I got admitted into the University of Ibadan. I was a
political science.
Yeah, political science. Actually, nice. So I was 15 at the time. So I got admitted. Very small. You would see me and know I was troublesome. You understand? In fact, for a lot of people, their first experience with me was I went to another hall of residence. So I was allocated Independence Hall. That was my hostel in UI. But because during clearance and registration, when we were just getting started, my guys, the people I had immediately made friends with were at Tedder Hall. So I used to go to Tedder Hall a lot. Now imagine this small, tiny boy going to Tedder Hall, and then so there was protest around that time. I think it was about light or something, right? So the hall chairman, at that point I didn't know he was the hall chairman, was telling students to go back. Why are they protesting this and that and blah blah. Bear in mind, I was only about 2 weeks into the system. So this guy was saying something, and then he quoted Karl Marx. He quoted it wrong. And then I told him, I said, if you would even tell people to stop protesting, you should at least get your quotes right. That quote is wrong. And then he was like, who is this one? I said, it's wrong. And that brought about, I kid you not, that led to a 7-hour argument between myself and this guy. Look, people came. Look, when people that I went to school with, when they see this, they will know. It wasn't for a lot of them that I still have like close ties with, and that was what endeared me to them. Like, who is this tiny thing? Do you understand? So we had that argument for 7 hours. People, it was in the morning. People on their way to class encamped around us for a bit, listened to a bit of the argument, went to class. They were coming back later, met us there still, having this argument. It was until later that towards the end of the exchange, that the guy now shook my hand and was like, I like you. And then I started hearing people calling him Holcha. I didn't even know what that meant, because again, I was just 2 weeks into the system. So that's the Holcha man. I'm like, what? Do you understand? So automatically, people just assumed that I was I was that was the hall that I was given. So I just started living there. So I didn't live in my hall of residence again. I just started living it. So imagine this tiny boy. Just he's smart, he's sharp, he's this, is that, right? Then I used to do presentations. So they would give us like group assignments and whatnot, So when it comes to the presentation aspect of things, I'll do presentation. I will not contribute anything during the ideation process. Nothing, no money, nothing. Because they know that if it's presentation, Frank will kill it. So they will take all the stress off of me. When they have put the whole document together, they'll send to me. I will just read and go and present. You understand? So that was my thing until about 300 level first semester. So that was when I got introduced to rap. Right. So I'd always listened to rap here and there while growing up. In fact, I know that I listened to this song, Better Days by Tupac, one day. I was washing my father's car. And for some very strange reason, I was, teary eyed. I was very young, but I was listening to it. Was like I was feeling the raw emotions of the song. It really spoke to me.
Something.
You get me? So I then got introduced to rap in 300 level first semester. So all we're always looking for were punchlines. We listen to what's the meaning of the punchline that Lil Wayne gave in this song. What's the this and that? Who's the rap? Oh, look at this punchline. So because I had been very good with words while growing up, I could easily decode punchlines. So punchlines that people didn't understand, they will bring to me and say, Omo, waiting Fabulous mean when he talk this thing. Waiting Eminem mean when he talk this thing. Phenom, waiting he talk when he talk this thing. Vector, waiting he mean. I used to decode all these punchlines, right? There was one Egbon in our hall of residence that time. The Egbon saying the rap. You understand? But I knew that I feel no sabi rap, but this thing you are doing is not rap. So and this is OG. So so he was just doing that whole this. Everybody were like, I said, Egmont, this thing no dope. I said, this thing, no dope. Egmont got pissed. And he was like, I have no right to critique his rap if I can't come up with my own.
Yeah, I mean, that's what rappers do. That's what rappers say.
So I'm like, I'm not even a rapper. He said, so I should shut up. I'm like, good. So I took my pen and jotter and I went to the reading room. And I was there for hours writing lyrics. Those were that was the first time I would write lyrics. I said, this rap that this guy said I cannot rap, I would do it. So I wrote lyrics. I memorized the lyrics. I spent hours in the reading room. And then I put in for rap competitions in the school, dusted everybody, became the best rapper in UI. I'm telling you, I dusted everybody. I dusted every living soul.
Wow.
Rapping in UI, became the best rapper in UI. We had this crew, where we used to move together. And
life was good.
Every Wednesday or Thursday we'll come here, we'll rap. And that was how rap started for me. Now I finished school, went to do my NYSC, came back, got a job at an engineering firm that had sentiments in the mining industry, did that for close to 2 years, and then I quit. And then I put in for the Hennessy VS class. That's the the biggest rap competition in Nigeria. Put in for that and I won. That was how I entered into the music industry, and I started doing music. And then from music, I thought that music was what I was going to do. And then, music didn't pan out as I thought it would, Then in 2022, I segued into content creation, comedy content creation.
Yeah, with them
Oleakun, Jibola Gray, That went viral to the point where it got me a brand ambassadorship role with 9Mobile, right? That happened. And then at some point I knew that, I just knew that season, because I'd always told my guys, I said, content creation for me is not an end in itself, it's a means to an end. What the end is, I don't know. But I know that all this, that's why I didn't like when people called me skit maker. I never liked it. I'm not a skit maker. Do you understand? So eventually that just phased out basically, and then I started this new line, this new niche where I then talk about personal branding. I talk about, internal engineering. I talk about motivation, inspiration, strategic foresight, futurism, the future of everything, work, tech, medicine, education, all of that stuff. You understand? So that's where I'm at now. Now, all of the knowledge that I've soaked as a kid, right, is gaining expression now. Because in the university, I'll go to the library, go to, for all night reading, the Kennedy Library, all night reading. I will not read my own course material, political science. I won't read it. I will read from human kinetics and geontology. I will read from medicine. I will read from sociology. I will read from psychology. I will spend. So imagine they sent you to school, right? And you are serious with reading everything except your own course material. Do you understand? That was how it was. So people will see me in the library and be like, man, this guy is so serious. Like I will fool around in the day. I'll play football. I will clown. I used to be, this thing they call arrow, to be roasting people. I was sharp mouthed. I will yab your life. I'll do that during the day. In the night, you see me in the library reading. But I was not reading my course materials. I was reading everything else. So all of that knowledge is what is gaining expression now. So when people are saying, how are you so knowledgeable about so many things, it's
like the years of work.
It's been, yes, decades of not even knowing where it was going to lead to. But now I have a plethora of useless knowledge.
Yeah, I mean, when you say that, it just speaks to something in me. I used to say it to people too. I feel like I'm a generalist about a lot of things, but I'm not a specialist in one. Do you sometimes feel that way when you look at the way you do before you get to personal branding? I know that is what your core is and you are quite good, but before you found yourself doing personal branding, have you ever wondered, for somebody like me that is where I am at, wondering like, oh, I have a wealth of knowledge about a lot of things, like I'm just a generalist, I know a little bit about this, a little bit about that, but I want to be specialized in something. What helped you with you picking personal branding at the end of the day? Like, where did that knowing come from? That knowing you were talking about just now, where did it come from?
Bro, I'm telling you, man, the knowing did not come naturally. I suffered. like
we all did.
Look, I'm telling you, man, because you see, when you are proficient at a lot of things, you are good, this one you are good, this one you are good, this one you don't know much about it, but the moment they introduce you to it, you become good at it. You become good. People look at you like, how does it feel to be God's favorite? You knowing how to do all of these things and whatnot. Now, on the surface, it's a gift. Deep down, it's a curse.
The gift and the curse is the.
Do you understand?
Is the blessing of every talented person.
So, because you are so good at so many things, you then start to wonder, which one do I prioritize? Which one do I focus on? And then it just, it just builds this identity crisis. You don't know what to identify yourself as, So that plagued me for a long time until I realized that being a generalist is great for conversations. Being a specialist is what's best for impact. So, a symposium conversation, or say we're just having a chilled conversation where we are basically flexing our knowledge base, is good to be able to touch upon different subject matter and have above average understanding as to how these things work. But when it comes to having impact, you need to be a specialist at something, and that means you have to pick something,
be obsessed about it,
and amplify. It means a lot of the other things have to suffer, but that's the risk that you must take in order to get to a point where you can make impact. So that was how it happened. So I had to forego a lot of things to focus. Because you will need to study, and if you want to be an authority at something, you must have invested hours and hours of study. Now imagine, and how much time do you really have as a human being? Now imagine divesting the hours that you have into so many ventures. You can't, at best, you perpetuate averageness at everything. You can't be a specialist you can't attain mastery at one, because you have not amplified on one. You have divested your time and energy across board. Do you understand?
Yeah.
That's why you see a lot of people who are great at conversations. When it comes to, oh yeah, let's really make an impact and whatnot, you won't find them.
Yeah, that speaks a lot to how you came up with. How did you come up with? I mean, when I went to your LinkedIn profile, your Instagram profile, I just like that word, non-fungible.
Yeah.
How did you think, like, oh, I'm non-fungible? Like, I mean, non-fungible is something that cannot be replaced with another.
Yes.
I mean, and that's a lot of authority. And I used to say it's, you need to call yourself what you want to be called. Like you said in your viral video, you need to brand, or you are going to be branded. How did you come up with that brand for yourself? Because that's bold.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people ask me every time, it's like, non-fungible, Frank. Why non-fungible? I'm like, so in 2021 there was this whole craze with crypto, non-fungible token, NFTs.
Yeah,
right?
NFTs. Yeah.
So I was in that space. So I really researched about NFTs as a concept, and like the value placed on something is tantamount to how difficult it is to replace it.
Yeah.
Do you understand? Or how there is no like for like replacement. How unique and rare it is.
Across all. I mean, you can say that across all sectors of life.
Absolutely.
Work, whatever your discipline.
Absolutely. So I started looking at my life, the entirety of my experiences, the total sum of my perspectives, the things I've had to go through, my interpretation of all of these things, the things that I'm good at, the things that I'm not so good at, everything. And I gradually started coming to the conclusion that there's nobody like me. I'm one of one. Now, the thing about it is, when you just hear someone randomly say something like that, there's a likelihood for you to
commonize,
look at it as it's coming from a place of arrogance or something of that nature. Like, what's so special? It's not about being special. It's the reality of life. There is no human being out there who has the exact experiences as I do. There's none. Do you understand? Now, the more I sit in that idea, the more self-aware I become, the more difficult it is to replace me. Because then I know that I'm only trying to be a more refined version of myself, not anybody else. Do you understand? A lot of people are trying to be somebody else. You look at this guy and you start to model the entirety of your life after this guy. Do you understand? Ignoring the fact that your experiences in life, they differ.
Quite unique.
Do you understand? They are very unique. So, when I say I'm non-fungible, it means that I sit in everything that I do. I operate from a place of the uniqueness of my being, and that's what I try to teach people. You are non-fungible. You are non-fungible. I am non-fungible. The more that I come to terms with that, the more at peace I am with my pace in life, my experiences, knowing that the things that have made you move fast in life, right? The sum total of all of those experiences are not the experiences that I have had or that I have in life. So I must move at my own pace. I must be patient with myself. And I must, at every point in time, leverage on my unique strengths and experiences. Tell my stories. Do you understand? As they are unique to me. You understand? So that's primarily, it's just me realizing that I'm unique and operating from that space.
Since you're talking about telling your story as unique and the way it is, that's personal branding.
Yes, sir.
And it has become like a buzzword for most people.
Yes, sir.
And I mean, every time I hear it, I mean, when I listen to the way you talk about it every time, like most especially when I was preparing for this. Do you think most people actually know what personal branding is?
From my findings, most don't. Most don't. So when you have a conversation with somebody and they tell you, I'm a personal branding consultant, and you're like, okay, let's have a conversation about personal branding. And they tell you, you know, then they start, drawing. They'll start giving you references. Look at Debola Lagos, for instance. He's always wearing white and red cap. That's his personal brand. You look at, so and so person. He's always wearing there's this necklace that is always wearing personal brand, Or they'll tell you, if you go to so and so person's page, you can see the color theme that they are using. They are using yellow and green. That's personal branding. You realize that personal branding in itself, in fact, all those things that you see eventually, say you see somebody choosing Minister Dunsin Oyekan, always wearing white, that's his brand. That's it. It is. Do you think that these people randomly stumbled upon this thing and then one day just say, white in Imofemawo? You understand? These are not accidental decisions. They were carefully curated in tandem with who they are as a person. So, the origin of personal branding is internal engineering. You must first of all, what's this quote? Man, know thyself. Personal branding has absolutely, at its core, has absolutely nothing to do with outward appearance. You know why? Because you are not operating from the outside. You are operating from within. So if you are operating from within, that means that it is from the knowledge of yourself that you have, that you operate. Do you understand? All these other external factors are just addendum. That's not the main thing when it comes to personal branding. You understand? I'm a, like, for someone like me whose background is faith, right? And like I believe that a lot of the things that I know and that I speak on are things that I learned from the Bible. Even personal branding in itself,
Like man know thyself, like you said.
Brother, God has a personal brand. His personal brand is righteousness. On the day that you see anything that is unrighteous, you know who is responsible. You know this is not God at work, right? He has brand consistency. The Bible described Satan's brand. It says, the devil cometh to steal, to kill, and to destroy. Anywhere you see killing, murder, anywhere you see theft, stealing, anywhere you see destruction, you know who's at work. You know who's responsible. It's consistent with his brand. Do you understand? So when you start looking at it from that perspective, you look at like the characters that were described in the Bible. You look at somebody like Abraham, who embodied faith. You know that his personal brand was promulgated on faith, right? You see someone like Moses, intimacy. You see someone like Paul, Apostle Paul, for instance, among so many other things, is controversy. He was controversial before he became an apostle. He became an apostle and was still controversial. And even in his death, he's still controversial. Because we still argue about the Pauline gospel. We still argue about the things that Paul said. You see a lot of argument about, Paul said this, Jesus said this. Paul said this, Peter said this. And so what is Paul more knowledgeable than these people? You understand? So this is something that has trailed him his entire life. And he did not shy away from it. His letters, you see, he will call you, foolish Galatians. He was very blunt with it. You understand? Call me whatever you like that you call me, Wolomo. You understand? Do you think that it is normal for you to actually grade yourself as a human being? You say, I have run my race. I have finished. Do you understand how controversial that statement is? I have finished
my faith.
Bro, like, it's like you saying, God, my work here, according to your assignment, I finished. Everything that I'm doing is extra work. Do you know how crazy that is? Yeah, you understand? So he stood on brand. Even Jesus. Everywhere that Jesus turned to, when you were asking a question, you say, I am. I am the way, the truth, and the life.
Right.
Nobody cometh to the Father except through me.
Yeah,
You understand? If people say you are not, I am. They say, this one.
I am the I am.
Bro, before your father Abraham was, I am. He was annoying people. He was annoying the Jews. He was annoying the Pharisees. But he kept on saying it. He kept on saying it. There was even a time that he did a survey and wanted to get a feedback. And that's how you learn some like business principles and whatnot, right? You know what you do when you want to get a feel of your brand reputation?
What do I do?
You then do your brand reputation. You then do like maybe a Vox Populi or maybe what's this thing a questionnaire, basically. Getting a feel of public opinion as regards your product, so that you know what to improve upon and whatnot. Jesus did it when he told the disciples. He said, "Who do men say I am?" Do you understand? It's him gauging brand reputation. Who do men say I am? This one say, oh, some say you are this. Some say you are that. I say, he then say, okay, who do you think that I am? And say, well, I think that you are. Do you understand? Brand reputation. So I learned a lot of these things, from scripture. So it's a thing wherein and all of these people, these things that I've mentioned now, is any of those things tangible? Is it material? These are not material things. It's not about outfit or whatnot. It's about a setting. Do you understand? A conditioning that is unique, is true to who you are at the core, and you living true that. Do you understand? That's primarily what, and you can't do that if you have not sat down to know yourself. That's why whenever I want to it's why I don't just do consultations anyhow. When we want to talk about personal branding, we'll start with internal engineering, like who at the core. Who at the core are you? What are your beliefs about life? How do you go about things? How do you process things? What are your prevailing belief systems? Right? How do you see the world? All of these things ultimately usually lead to one thing, right? It'll help you know one thing about yourself. So this is the kind of person that I am. From that, you can then start to, imagine somebody who ultimately finds out that there are some people who are disorganized, and that disorganization is who they are, and it works for them. Do you know there are people like that?
Yeah.
So the way that they are able to function maximally is when there is no order in things, when there's chaos
around them.
That's how they thrive, right? That kind of a person cannot go and then say
wants to do 9 to 5.
They want to do 9 to 5. That kind of person cannot go and then say they want to be. Let's even look at it from the littlest thing. That kind of person can't go and say they want to be wearing white. Do you understand? White, say it's just white I want to be wearing. White indicates stability. It indicates, serenity. It indicates I know how this is going to play out, right? I am in control of what is going on. Do you understand? Somebody who thrives in chaos does not want to be in control. Do you understand? And I'm telling you this because I know people like that. They don't want to be in control. Though. They want for different things to be, because that's how they get energized in their mental. When it seems like everything is going haywire, they will now sit down and figure it out. You know? So they thrive in chaos. Those kind of people can't wear white. You understand? It's why you see a lot of people who, you see them, it's like they are dressing. You see a lot of tech guys, they dress very random, because your outward appearance will most likely reflect the state of your mind. Right. Some people want turbulence. That's how they thrive. So if you want turbulence in your mind space and you are navigating through storms in your head, you can't be wearing, say you want to wear a color that depicts order. It can't happen. Do you understand? So when they just say, where come I wear white? Have you found out the person's, MO, the person's internal, navigation system? You haven't. Do you understand? So it's one of those things, man.
So all these things I have said now, personal branding is more from within.
Yes, sir.
And I think when I look at the space, like, because preparing for this, I've had to look about the space of personal branding. I think most people confuse it for visibility. I did the same thing. You are the experienced person here. This is your area of specialty. Do you think personal branding and visibility, do you think they are the same thing?
No, they are not the same thing because visibility is not something that you curate. You don't curate visibility. Visibility is an after effect of your curation. What you curate is your personal brand. You curate your personal brand. This is how I want to be seen. When I speak, this is the kind of message that I want people to get, right? This is the way that I want to be interacting. This is the way that I want people to see me. That's personal brand. Visibility is to what extent people see you and what they think. Do you understand? Now, you can curate all of these things finish and nobody still sees you. Visibility is based off of like very different metrics. You understand? How well you project yourself, not how you... This is deep. There's a difference between how well you project yourself and how you project yourself. How you project yourself is your personal brand. How well you project yourself is the platforms that you use to project yourself. Do you understand? So, for instance, you run this podcast now, right? There is a theme to how you do this podcast, you know, your appearance, the way you want people to see you and all of that. That's how you want to project yourself. How well you want to project yourself is now you are determining what platform you want to post this podcast on. Maybe you want to do YouTube, or you want to do Facebook, or you want to do short form on this to you know, catch the eye of more people. Now that's where visibility comes in. Do you understand? Yeah. So I think personal brand is more in tandem with reputation. They are not exactly the same thing, but they are very similar.
Yeah, since we're talking about reputation, and I have a funny question I wanted to ask before we went to reputation. Reputation and perception. Reputation and perception are quite different things from my understanding, but they are still quite very intertwined. How do you have control over that with your personal branding?
Okay. So first of all, let me tell you like the difference between reputation and perception.
Okay. Perception.
Yeah. For you to have reputation, people don't need to see you. Do you understand?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
For you to have reputation, people don't need to see you. They can just believe what somebody else says about you.
A minute, please. A minute. Rector, please. Is she here? Please, once she's here, just bring her in. Let her sit down there till we are done. Let her just be in so she have a feel of what we're trying to do. So we don't wait to start. All right, Rector, let's roll, please. Reputation and perception.
So, reputation.
People don't need to see you.
People don't need to see you where reputation is concerned. I can just be here and they just say, Bobo Manche podcast. He does this podcast. I think he's a cool guy. You know, he's smart and all of that. They just mentioned the name. Sramida was a cool guy. You understand? Cool guy is chill. You know, zero stress. Blah blah blah. And then I'm like, that's nice. So, I didn't have to see your podcast. Understand? I didn't have to see your podcast. I didn't have to see you. I may not even know what you look like. But they have said, there's a certain Soramida, your guy, who does podcasts and he's a cool guy. That's reputation. Perception is different. Perception is I'm seeing you, I'm gauging you, I'm analyzing. So, perception is the next step after reputation. So, say, after people have told me about this certain Soromidayo guy, he's cool, he's this, he's that, I then say, I want to find out by myself.
So
I say, I want to go and watch the podcast. I then start to watch the podcast. I'm now looking at the guy's mannerisms, the way he speaks, the way he talks, the way he communicates, his wealth of knowledge. Start to look at that if it's in tandem with the reputation, right? So at that point in time, so I could then be here and I say, I heard what you guys said about him being cool and stuff, right? But my perception when I looked at him I'm not exactly convinced. Do you understand? Now those are two different things. Do you understand?
Do you have control over both? Or
you to a certain extent you have a control over reputation. Not completely, but to a certain extent you have a control over reputation.
With your personal branding.
Now you are getting it. Now you are getting it. So with your personal branding, to a large extent, you can control what your reputation is, right? But perception is more difficult to control, right? Now, perception will be on the strength of your reputation. Do you understand? So people have said this about this guy. Now I want to go find out. Of course, there's already bias because reputation has already played a role. You now want to go and find out if it's true or if it's false. Now, if you are somebody who, by default, your negative bias is working, you would want to go and prove the reputation wrong. Yeah, so that will be dependent on who you are as a person, that perception area. So that's why it's more difficult to control, because now it's not just about personal branding now. There's already an influence. So you don't know if that has influenced them for good or for bad. There are some people who just want to be contrarian. And when they say somebody knows that this guy is great at cinematography, he's awesome at cinematography. If I'm a contrarian, I'm coming here to prove how he's not good. So I just come here and just be like, see the way he even stood safe. His stance. This is not the stance of Steven Spielberg. This is not how James Cameron stands when he's shooting. Do you understand? Like, I don't know, man. A hype. Do you understand? So you can't really control that, because now there's the unilateral approach of personal bias, experiences, and the way that this person sees life. Do you understand?
This thing that you're saying now
it's very deep, bro. It's this whole personal branding is very deep.
Very deep and very interesting, because this thing you just said now, people's bias and where your reputation, how it stands. I think that's why we all can agree that art is very subjective.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I think that's the only reason why art is very subjective. And I keep saying it. If you want to come into the entertainment industry, I keep saying to everybody I have a conversation with, you need to understand it's an opinion-based industry.
Absolutely.
Like, people's opinion of you have really nothing to do with you. The only thing you can control is the improvement of your own craft. Yeah. And that brings me to the next question. Like, people have, like in our social space and in the real world, people have tend to develop an online image, create an online image, than having real world skills, like you said earlier in our conversation. Is this a generational problem, or it's just where times are? Because, when I watched your video again and when I was looking at it while preparing for this, when you were talking about personal branding, you said it is you before your skills. Now, it is you before your skills. So, does that make sense for people to go online and create, just create an image of themselves, but not have the real world skills to back it up, and they are getting the bag while in the middle of all that?
You can't, if you don't have the skill, right, and you portray yourself at something, you will be found out eventually, right? So what it means is that you are playing the short-term game, And I always have this conversation with people. I tell them, look, ensure that when you are, like, whatever it is that you are doing, you have the long-term plan in mind. Bro, there will always be the people that you call the flash in the pan. There will always be people who are only here, for what it is. You can instantly tell that in the next 5 years, this person will no longer be relevant. It's clear. You cannot defeat the process. There are principles. There are principles that govern the stability of human engagement. It cannot be truncated. So if you go and you have curated a persona online without having the underlying skill to back that up, you will be found out. Eventually you will be found out. Do you understand? You'll be found out. So one thing that I know that a lot of people do is they go portray themselves as something and then start working on the skill behind the scene. You can do that. To what extent that can help you, only God knows. Do you understand? So that would depend on how dedicated you are to actually learning the skill that is needed. You understand? But ultimately, for people who just focus on building a persona at the detriment of learning skill, tangible skill, both soft skill and technical skill, or whatever it is that you have portrayed yourself to be proficient at, if you do not take the time out to invest time and energy into learning the basics of that venture, the craft, you will be found out. You will be found out. And, and that's the thing. When we are talking about people, securing the bag and stuff, it makes me laugh. You know why it makes me laugh? We are so blinded by, first of all, this is the generation of instant gratification. We no longer have respect for process.
For delayed gratification.
Yeah, we have no respect for process. So it's like somebody has money now, invest, and is telling you, how much can I make in 3 months? Understand? That's not how investments work. Do you understand? So somebody starts putting out content today,
I want to blow tomorrow.
and then, by the end of the month, they're like, I don't have 2,000 followers, I'm depressed. Do you understand? It's like there's a gestation period. No matter how much
Quality.
in a hurry you are, right, to give birth, the 9 months will be 9 months. There are rare occasions wherein it happens before 9 months, but there's a reason why they call it premature.
Mature. Yeah.
You understand? So some facilities have to be put in place to ensure that that child doesn't even die. If it's premature, it's very vulnerable and fragile. It could die. So some things have to be put in place to ensure. Now imagine that in your rush to give birth, you give birth prematurely, you don't have facilities in place to take care of that baby until it comes to like full term, or until all the necessary what's it called now? All of the necessary organs come to full formation. Right? Imagine that you don't have the child will die. Do you understand? So it's why if you force greatness, it will die in your hands. You don't have the maturity to handle it. If you force greatness, it will die in your hands. Look, you know that there's a difference. No, it's something like, you know that there's a difference between achieving success and being a successful person. There are two different things.
What's the major difference between that?
So, when you achieve success, you could achieve success as a function of, in fact, your input in the achieving of that success might be very minimal. For instance, you were born into a wealthy family, somebody else has toiled, built a company, and just tells you, you're my son. Assume the role of the MD and doing that. Now, by metrics, society metrics, you are successful. No, by society metrics, you achieved success, right? Now, whether you are a successful person, that's a symposium conversation. You understand? It can be debated all day long. Do you understand? So, you could be somewhere wherein, as a function of the people that you're around, say for instance, you know that there are some things that they call owo for hearing, owo gbenusi. So all of us feel day like this. You have one dope idea. It's a $1 billion idea, right? You start it. You just say, oh, yeah, let's do this, let's do that. Maybe in the process of all of that, I didn't even do anything. I just follow on a day as soon as they talk. And ultimately, eventually, maybe I make like $30 million out of the whole thing, right? Now, I have achieved financial success. But am I a successful person? You know, the difference between someone who has achieved success and a successful person is that if a successful person loses everything today, they can make it back. But for me, where we say you understand?
It's difficult for you to go get.
If I lose that, where else do I want to go and Benusi?
This thing.
But for this guy who came up with the idea, now, if he loses everything, he can start afresh and still make it because he has become a successful person.
You understand the intricacies.
He understands the intricacies of it. He understands how to navigate through the pitfalls and everything. But me, I don't know that one.
You are just thrown in the wilderness.
Do you understand? That's the difference.
I mean, this thing you're saying, I think the best analogy for me was when I was reading about people that were in Silicon Valley in the .com era.
Yes, sir.
They all made a lot of money.
Yes, sir.
But not all of them made a lot of impact.
Yes.
Only them Microsoft of this world, them Jeff Bezos of this world went ahead to make a lot of impact.
Yeah.
That came with a lot of money.
Yeah.
But I know a lot of people that were there.
Yeah.
Were just. So, the thing is, can you move from just that to becoming a success? That's just my next question.
Yes. Yes. So, what are the things that successful people do?
Yeah.
Let's start from there. What is the mindset of a successful person? What are their habits? You know, we deceive ourselves a lot.
Especially in Nigeria. We think processes are not important.
Look, we deceive ourselves a lot. Look, and you see, you know what's funny about life? What's funny about life is, life was here long before you came. And it will be here long after you are gone. You face life, say you are trying to do it, will beat you with experience.
It will humble you.
Do you understand? It will beat you with... So, life is not sentimental.
Reality is ash.
Brother, life is... I always say something. Life is not fair. But life is not partial.
It will always reward you with what you put in.
God bless you. Life is not fair, but life is not partial. Do you understand? It is not partial in the sense that eventually it rewards you.
With whatever you put in. Eventually.
It's
just the timeline that is not certain.
You don't know what the timelines are. You might be in an environment where you are not opportuned to do certain things, or you don't have access to some kind of information and whatnot. You get. But ultimately, life would reward. There's a reward system that has been set in place because that's the principle that governs all of creation. Seed time and harvest. Seed time and harvest. You plant, you nurture, it will blossom eventually. Do you understand? It's like the bamboo trees in Asia. You plant that bamboo tree. For like 4-5 years, you will not see anything. Do you understand? Nothing sprouts. Nothing, not 5 years. You've planted and you are watering every day. Nothing sprouts for like 5 years. And then all of a sudden, within 2 weeks, the bamboo springs up to 90 meters. Do you know what 90 meters is? Up to 90 meters, right? Now imagine that you planted a bamboo tree. You are taking your friends there every weekend and say, Mama, planting can't be by. After 2 months, after 3 months that they don't see anything, they'll just tell you, Ogbeni, you're supposed to baby to plants in conceal. You understand?
They start looking at you for
bro, they'll tell you, you should say you know when you do this thing.
Oh, you know where they go.
You understand? Yeah. At some point, you will start doubting. Like, nah, yeah.
Because people have a way of.
You understand? They will just plant. They'll sow that seed of doubt within, and you start wondering, I not be here any. Do you understand? But when it eventually grows, it will grow to a point where it rewards your patience. And you see, at that point, by the time it's like when the bamboo eventually sprouts, at that point in time, you have become a patient person. You have become somebody who has forbearance. You have become somebody who understands process more. You have become somebody who is more appreciative of things. Do you understand? So, these are all principles that make someone a successful person.
Patience.
Do you understand? Patience, consistency, even when there are no results. Do you understand? Consistency, even I always say this. I say consistency is quiet. Have you ever heard a tree grow? Tell me if you have ever heard. Have you heard of? You've heard a tree growing before? No.
Yeah.
Every day is adding an inch. It's adding an inch silently. You are not hearing it grow, but it is growing. Do you understand? Look at the sun, for instance. Even on a cloudy day where there is no sun, where it's cloudy and it's like everywhere is about to rain, it's doom and gloom. You know that above the cloud, the sun is shining. No, there is no day that the sun does not shine. Clouds may cover it, but it's shining consistently, and it's not waiting for you to acknowledge it before it shines. Sometimes before you wake up, it's already there. It will show up every day. So if you can borrow that mentality of you see the sun. Oh God, the consistency of the sun. It inspires me a lot. That I said something. I said no matter. I said the sun does not argue with people who love the night shift. In the morning is up there. It does not care. So no matter how much you love night shifts, the night work, I work better at night. I love it when in the morning, unapologetically, the sun is up there. And it's already, do you understand? So these are some of the things that you must learn about how successful people move. How the mindset that they have, how dogged they are, how resilient they are, how they don't take no for an answer, how they always believe there is a way. There is a way. There is a way. How they don't give up easily. So these are some of the things and you will learn all of these things through trying things and failing. You see, people don't want to fail at stuff, and I think it's a function of like how we have painted failure through our educational system. And we came up, these people have failed, and so there's a negative connotation to failure. While it might have a negative connotation in academics, failure is not negative in business. It's a part of the process. You have to fail in certain things in order to become wiser. So that's why they use the term fail fast, fail forward. Do you understand? So you fail and you just, what's the next thing I can fail at? You do what's the next thing I can fail at? Do you understand? So that's how you become a successful person as opposed to just achieving success. Because if you lose the success that you achieve without becoming a successful person, it becomes difficult for you to replicate it. That's why you hear of people who in this our generation, you hear Popsy and they used to have money.
It's a common story.
Exactly. In the 80s, they were wealthy, man.
Yeah.
You understand? It's because they didn't, for a larger percentile of them, they didn't become a successful person. They attained success without the necessary transformation, the commercial transformation that is needed to. The people who were the successful people are the people who were able to, even when they lost their money, they bounced back. You see, not like Otedola, who lost virtually everything and then came back. Do you understand? Lost, and then came back. These people have become successful people. Elon Musk hit
Ground zero.
Bro, yeah, SpaceX was almost done.
I remember the story that I was saying that they had to pay on the last day possible of closing of business.
Yes.
To keep SpaceX active.
Yes.
His funds and his friend.
Yes.
And now they are like one of the most successful business in the world. And that brings me to my next conversation with you. Because I used to feel like when people talk about consistency with me, when they talk about the importance of when they talk about consistency and when they talk about the importance of showing up every day, I used to say it's harder to show up when nothing is happening.
Yeah,
I understand that. But I think the next phase we don't talk about enough is when our reality collides with this delusion of we becoming successful. Like when they collide, it's always a very hard place for you to be, even for successful people. That's why you say, it's important for them, they are able to come back. But when it happens to them, it gives them a kind of doubt, a kind of self-doubt that is hard to shake off. So how did you having all this recipe, all this personal branding, how does it help you in those moments? That's really what my question is.
Like I said, like personal branding starts from internal engineering, you knowing yourself. You understand? Now, when you know yourself and you have become conversant with your strengths, your weaknesses, right? On the days of adversity, you just focus your attention solely on your strengths, right? It's like you just, the way these guys have been moving the camera and focusing on something. On the days that things are difficult, you just focus the camera on your strengths and just keep looking at that and keep looking at that until you can find your way out of the quagmire that you're in. I usually say something. I read something that Sam Altman wrote, the CEO of OpenAI. He said, if there is one trait I have found in very successful people, it is that they believe in themselves almost to a point of delusion.
Yeah, it's important. Delusion is important for anything. I keep saying it to people. And that's why I asked it the way I asked that. When your delusion hits with your reality, it's always crazy.
That's it. So, when your delusion hits with your reality, for you who want to be successful, you don't prioritize the delusion. You elevate the delusion over the reality. Does the reality prick your skin? Is it affecting you? Yes, it is. But you have just chosen to focus on your delusion. You have just chosen to focus on, this is the mental image I have of myself in the next 10 years. And nothing that is happening today will stop it.
That's hard to say. You know what you just said now? It's just like, imagine somebody coming to you and say, I want to be the best in my field, but I have no proof of work. That's exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, if you're saying you want to be the best in your field, but you have no proof of work, go and work. Go and do the work. It's as simple as that. Go and do the work, and if you know that time is against you, that means you know that you must put in more work than most people are putting. Do you understand? So this is not, Bible says faith without works is dead. Do you understand? So you can't just be delusional and not put in commensurate work. In fact, the more delusional you are, the more work that you put in, because you know the magnitude of. Look, when I said this thing now, and you said, man, that's a lot of work. I agree. That's why few people are successful. That's why only few people are successful. That's it, man. It's as simple as that. Eric Thomas says something that I really love. He said, if it was easy, everybody would do it. And that's true. The 99 percentile of the population would rather focus on what is comfortable, right? And that's why if you meet somebody and you just tell somebody, you give somebody or like you seek advice from someone, look at the quality of advice that you get from people. The advice, you would hardly see somebody give you an advice that takes you out of your comfort zone, or an advice that challenges you to a point wherein it's almost like they are stretching you, they are ripping off every shred of comfort that you've built around you. It's hard. The only people who give you that kind of advice are successful people who have had to do that by themselves. Those are the only kind of. You have this great business idea that nobody has done in your family, nobody has done in your neighborhood. None of your friends have executed ideas of that scale. And you go and tell your friend, I get this idea, man. I get this idea. Check.
They'll sow a seed of doubt first.
A lot of them mostly would tell you,
sow a seed of doubt.
You just say this thing. Guy, this thing mad, though. You know the work where you go do concerning this thing? You know the money where you go need to do this kind of thing? Those who would even support you, maybe a thing of, a nice idea, a nice idea, it ends there. It ends there. And this is something, look, I have told people a lot of my clients, I've told them, go and try it out. And they usually find out that it is, but let me tell you the difference between when you tell small-minded people an idea and when you tell somebody who has become a successful person. When you tell a successful person an idea, the idea is great, the idea is wild. Tell the person the idea. They usually tell you, tell me more about it.
They challenge you.
Tell me more about it. You see, the perpetual mind state of somebody who you know will be successful, the mindset of someone you know or has the propensity to be successful, is a perpetual state of curiosity. curiosity. Even if they don't have money yet, you come and tell them something and they're like, I'm gonna explain this thing. Give me. Explain. When you see that kind of person around you, that person is an asset. Hold that person there. Right? Because curiosity means that I'm seeking to find information that takes me outside of what I know into a realm of confusion, a realm of me not knowing my right from my left, but I'm willing to go to that realm regardless. That's the mindset of people who continue to achieve. They are curious. I've had successful people ask me more questions than people who actually need to ask questions the most. Do you understand? People who are struggling, who need to ask questions the most, they will not ask questions. It's always a thing of, I don't do my research, bro. I don't do my research. I feel say, like from waiting I know, I feel like the question, what do you know? What do you know? Because successful people have adopted the mindset of a learner till they die. Growth mindset. Tell me this thing. They can take advice from a 2-year-old.
It's crazy. This thing you're saying, you just reiterate it with the things that I found out online. Elon Musk spends like 24 days on Twitter. The amount of time he has spent. He has spent more than 24 days. Like 516 hours. 56 hours. 556 thereabouts on Twitter, tweeting. The amount of tweets, the amount of information he has had to digest, as successful as he is. And when someone asked him about that, he said something that actually said to me. He said he realized that so many people are too broke to not be exposing themselves to some type of information they are not willing to expose themselves to.
Exactly. You see that they are not willing. Or Benny. Facts. Close-mindedness. Brother, it's deep, man.
Yeah, I mean, and that brings me to the last thing that I want to talk to you about personal branding and maybe how we are going to end our conversation. It's just one of those things like we struggle with as young Nigerian people, and I know most people watching this and most people that will see this struggle with it. We used to have a thing that, I don't want to show my face, but I want to be the personal brand. Is it possible?
In this day and age, it's very difficult. Have you wondered why even in radio stations they do live streaming?
Yeah.
Have you thought about this?
Yeah.
Why do they do live streaming?
They have YouTube channels.
Exactly. Radio station, we get YouTube channel. Have you wondered why? We are in the age wherein you must match a face with the name. You must match a face with the voice. People want to be more in the know. It's just the times that we're in. People want to be privy to even the back end of things. It's why you will shoot a video. You will shoot a video, you release a video, and release BTS. Have you thought about this thing? You release a video and release BTS. And it's not, you are not just doing it fully. You realize that people are watching the video, they are also watching the BTS. You understand? You're like, it's because people want to know everything. We're in the age of information overload. So if you are hoarding, if they feel like you are hoarding information, there's an emotional disconnect. Now, what you do at that point in time is that's where you then intentionally curate what you want to release and what you want to hold.
That just reminds me about the video he did when Mark drove his July 5th video.
That Mark Zuckerberg thing.
Yeah.
Look at that video. Went
viral, instantly.
I told my guys, I said, there's more to this video. Especially when I saw that he was replying comments.
Yes,
Gary V commented, he replied, Gary V is on. I'm like, nah, there's more to this now. And then the following day, the valuation of Meta went up by 50 billion. I said, that's it, man.
Because humans and that's why I say, like, when you look at these super successful people, success leaves a clue. I keep saying it all the time. It's your responsibility to go look for it.
Yes.
Success always leaves clue in different places.
Yep. You can aggregate all of these things. And for instance, now, look at Mark Zuckerberg's rebrand, for instance.
It's crazy.
Bro, I'm telling you, man, He went from this tech reclusive
Yes.
nerd to being a
lover boy.
should be the lover boy. Even came later. He became I think he's a black belt holder now.
Yeah, judo.
In jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Abi judo. Jiu-jitsu, I think. Right.
Yeah.
There's that. Started following MMA fighters to the ring. You understand?
He trained with them.
Trained with that. Trained with them. Became a pro at surfing.
Yeah.
Right, to the point where he even injured himself, twisted his ankle. He went off for like 7 months, came back and was surfing. He's a pro surfer, and he feels the need to showcase that. His outfits have changed. Now he dresses like all these lil this, lil that. All these white boys who now rap. You see his macaroni hair, and then wears big chains, big shirts. This is somebody who, for the entirety of the 2010s upwards, this guy was only wearing gray shirts and jeans. Finish.
People keep forgetting that Mark is a millennial. He's the richest millennial in the world.
Now he has added color. You see him wearing green shirts, yellow pants. Ha!
Now a lover boy.
You understand? Did a song with T-Pain
For his wife.
Now
a lover boy.
Bought cars and then showcased the cars to the world. I bought 2 cars. I bought this one for myself. Bought this one for my wife. Custom made. It's a rebrand to meet with the times. You see Tony Elumelu. That's our example here. Look. That's our example here. A lot of people do not look.
He has no reason. I keep saying it to people like
none.
He has no reason. Like, I mean, we all know like talent is universal. Opportunity is not.
Yep.
These people that we are talking about have no reason to constantly chase for opportunity.
Do you understand?
But they are constantly in the pursuit for it.
If the people who have access to more
opportunities,
more information, more reliable information than you, once you see them actively going after something, be interested. They have information that you don't have. Do you understand?
Information, I keep saying, is knowledge and is wealth.
Bro, that's it, man. They have information that you have. Be inquisitive. Why this guy did? Why with all of Tony Elumelu's well? And you know what was funny? When I did the video, Tony Elumelu commented.
Yeah, I saw his comments.
Why would a, multi-millionaire in dollars, almost a billionaire.
Almost a billionaire. It's close to being a billionaire.
Yeah. Why would he
constantly?
He lands in Rio de Janeiro airport. The camera stand by showing him walking towards the motorcade. He lands in Heathrow. You see him. They are having a private dinner, whatnot. You see it there. He's doing yoga. You see him doing yoga. He's working out with his wife. You see, if he put that out at the end of the year, he'll do his all-white party, bring everybody together. He'll play. Now he'll post on his stories and play trendy songs that are trending. He'll use those songs to. A lot of people don't even factor that. New songs, he will play them. He will do that. It's strategic positioning, right? The language of the future is influence. There's a reason why. Did you follow the Mukesh Ambani wedding in India?
Yeah.
The Ambani wedding in India, when the heir of the Ambani empire, when he got married, they went to ship in celebrities from America.
Yeah.
When the mother of the mother of the Ambani boy, when she was coming in to the hall, right? It was Kim Kardashian that held her hand like this. What the hell does Kim Kardashian know about Indian culture? Is she even related to them? Absolutely not. They went to bring Rihanna to perform. They brought this. I think Rema performed as well. They brought people to perform. What do you think they are doing? They're already super wealthy, but they need to buy into the West. Do you understand? They need to buy into the West. So look at it, okay, let's look for people who are influential. Let's leverage on the influence of these pop icons. Right? It's all an agenda. Do you understand? So when you see Tony Elumelu, for instance, you post on his stories, he's at the Paris Fashion Week. You see him seated with Rema and Adekunle Gold, and it's like in what realm would you think like these sort of interactions would happen in the first place? You start to wonder like, what are they talking about? And realistically speaking, like what could they be talking about? It's like me and Elumelu sitting down and like, what do I know that we want to, like have a conversation about, But it's a thing when it's not even Rema that posts it, when it's Elumelu himself that posts it, then you should know that there is something, there is a positioning that he is adopting that you are not even aware
yet
of it, but he knows the game that he's playing. He knows the rooms he enters. He knows the nature of conversations that he has, the people that he interfaces with, the nature of conversations that they have, and you realize that this is working for him. He will do the all-white party, invite the who is who in the media and entertainment space
across all field.
Bro, people will
Across
pull up and all of that, and you are at the Tony Elumelu party. It's strategic positioning. You understand? So when you see people who are way more successful than you are, positioning themselves aggressively in a certain way, look at it now. You see athletes, current athletes, retired athletes, they will start a podcast. You are already wealthy and super successful. Why are you doing a podcast? In fact, you know what we learned over the years about billionaires and wealthy people is that the more successful you become, the more that you hide yourself. Right? The more that you should hide yourself from public view and whatnot. So why are successful people struggling with me for views? It's like and subscribe. The little that we are power. The little, internet money that we are enjoying, it's not the money, it's influence. Influence is the language of the future. The more that, because again, as has often been said, the future is a technocracy, right? So the more that we advance into the age of the artificial intelligence and the experiential dispensation, we will start to rely less and less on economic leverage and more on how tech inclined you are.
Influential you are.
Yes, how tech inclined you are, how your influence can be traced to your digital footprints and whatnot. That's what is going to. So for so many people in the age that is to come, their wealth will not be able to even translate to influence. You can be super wealthy in Nigeria and get to maybe the United States of America or get to Japan, and you are your money up. It means zilch. It does not mean anything. Not because the money is not worth anything there. It's just that less emphasis is now being placed on accumulation or amassing of wealth, and more of how influential you are, especially across territories, and the transparency of your digital blueprints across different territories. Do you understand? That's what it is.
Thank you for doing this with me.
Blessings
Thank you for speaking on personal branding. Thank you for picking a niche and being passionate about it, that it resonates with us on different level.
Yes, sir.
And I pray God bless the brand. God
Amen.
keeps you bigger and bigger on all platforms.
Amen.
And I'm sure we still have to revisit this on different level.
I got you.
And I'm very sure about that. But
you,
on this podcast this season and going forward, we have a closing tradition.
Okay.
Where the last guest leaves a question for the next guest without knowing who they are leaving a question for.
Okay.
So I'm going to read you the question that was left for you. And you are going to leave a question afterwards. So the question that was left for you is, if you are not doing your current profession, what else could you have been doing? If you're not so passionate about personal branding, being non-fungible, what else could you have been doing? That's the question that was left for you.
Maybe a stand-up comedian.
No rapper.
Nah, man. I mean, so humor has been the most constant thing in my life.
No, okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Like when you ask me, when you talk about me at five, what would be like the main? And I said like I was a clown. That's it. I'd always been a lot of people who follow me now, on social media have no idea how hilarious I am.
Yeah, because
They have no idea how hilarious I
your
am. You know.
your page is a representation of internal construction,
Do
and
you understand? So, and these are
fitting into
serious conversations,
conversations,
you
yeah.
know. So I've had to, like, yeah, in fact, I'm looking for, you know, I'm still thinking on how to bring that to the
Blend
fore
it.
again, you know, like, because that has been the part of me that has endured the longest. It has always been here.
I mean, but what you said is one of the. I mean, this thing that you're saying now just remind me one of the reasons why I created this pod, because I don't believe like Nigerians are only funny and we are only people of humor.
Yep.
I believe some of the most brilliant men I've had to speak with and I've spoken to and I've shared ideas with, they are in this country. So we are people of substance too. And I think that's why what you do with your page is very important too. Like where we can go often to receive some substance even when our attention span has been cut. So I think this is the point where you leave your question for the next guest and where we call this a wrap. Until next time, because I could do this a whole day because I feel like there's so much for me to learn. But I mean, I'll learn it as we proceed forward. Thank you.